Hello everyone, it's Eliza McNamara here to talk to you today about how your pain and pleasure associations are affecting every single area of your life. See, what a lot of people don't realise is they're not actually doing things consciously, they're doing things subconsciously. And the thing that will determine what your subconscious will get you to do are your pain and pleasure associations. And most people are not in control of their pain and pleasure associations. Their pain and pleasure associations are actually in control of them. Like for instance, let's say somebody wants to lose weight and they want to go on a diet. And they have all of this excitement and they really want to lose weight and be fit and healthy and everything, right? But in the back of their mind, they may have a strong pain association to dieting because they think that in order to lose weight, they have to diet and go on this diet and have the pain of being on a diet in order to lose weight. But they don't realise that you don't actually have to diet to lose weight, you just have to eat properly. So whilst they're reaching for chocolate or cake or something negative, instead of thinking about all the pleasure that they'll feel from feeling fit and healthy and having energy, they think about the pleasure they're going to feel in that moment. So they're stuck in instant gratification. Like for instance, let's say you're growing an online business from home, and let's say when you wake up in the morning, the pleasure of playing PlayStation for 3 hours is much stronger to you than the pleasure of, say, getting a big paycheck 1 month from then. And this applies to every single area of your life. And what most people don't realise is they're constantly being bombarded with these pain and pleasure associations which are incorrect by advertisers. Like for instance, McDonald's will always use in their advertising models that are attractive. They would never use somebody who's fat and unattractive and obviously unhealthy. I don't know if you've watched Supersized Me, but the man who was in this movie called Supersized Me, for I think it was 30 days or 40 days, ate McDonald's for 40 days and nothing else, just McDonald's, and he put on a ridiculous amount of weight. So the reality is, if somebody is eating a lot of McDonald's on a regular basis, then they obviously aren't going to be that fit or that healthy. But in the advertising, they make you think that people who eat McDonald's are very fit and healthy. It's like Pepsi, like Michael Jackson was paid, I think, $15 million to market Pepsi years ago. And he would never, whilst he was alive, have drunk Pepsi. But he was paid $15 million because Pepsi know that people listen to Michael Jackson's music, and still today they're still inspired by it. And people will remember that Pepsi advertisement, and that will probably still be working on a lot of people subconsciously today. But see, what you've got to do is you've got to program your own mind with pain and pleasure associations which you have selected, which you would like to have, which are going to help you in your life. Because if you don't program yourself with your pain and pleasure associations, then advertisers are paid millions of dollars per year and billions of dollars in many instances to program you to want their product. And it doesn't matter if that product is good or bad for you. It doesn't matter if that product is good or bad for you, because regardless, they're going to program you to buy their products and to associate more pleasure to having their products than pain. Like for instance, you see women every Friday and Saturday night wearing really high heels that they clearly cannot walk in. And you see them falling over and walking home holding their shoes, and the reason why they wear high heels is not because they're comfortable, but because they associate more pleasure to being seen as attractive by the opposite sex. And so they have these high heels which give them blisters and ruin their feet, which is really uncomfortable. And one thing that is really powerful is if you can actually take a look at the things you're procrastinating about and the things that you're not taking action on, and then you can write down 5 things you've been procrastinating about, and then 5 reasons why you associate pain to those things. And then you also write down 5 things that you get pleasure, pleasurable things you get by not taking action. Like for instance, if you're trying to lose weight, the pleasure you get by not taking action is you get to eat that chocolate in that moment. But instead of being driven by those old associations, you become aware of them, and then you become aware of all of the pain that you'll feel over the long term by not taking that action, whether it happens to be going on a diet or whatever, or growing a business, or whatever it happens to be. And by becoming aware of your pain and pleasure associations, you can get yourself to take the action that you consciously want to take. Because if you've got different things going on in your conscious and your subconscious, then what will happen is you'll sabotage yourself when you start doing something, because your pain and pleasure associations are conflicting. It's like they're contradicting each other. Like, for instance, if half of you is focused on the pleasure of growing your business and the other half is focused on the pain of having to take action, if you don't actually consciously work through this, then you can just continually procrastinate and self-sabotage in areas of your life that you wouldn't want to. Like, everyone has a dream of how their life could be or should be or how they want it to be. But what happens is they associate so much pain to the changes that they need to make in order to make that happen, that they just stay in the same place. But in reality, the pain of staying in the same place, of continuing to react and play out old patterns, is actually more painful. But because people don't consciously think about this and they're not consciously aware of it, they remain stuck in old patterns of behaviour which are not serving them. But as soon as you become aware of something, like I say, the first step to fixing a problem is becoming aware of the fact that you actually have one, because you can only fix something if you acknowledge the fact that you have it. As soon as you acknowledge the fact that there is a problem, then you're in a position to fix it and move forwards and make those changes. And being aware of your pain and pleasure associations is the most powerful way to make changes in your life.
It's used in election campaigns, in advertising, it's used in so many areas. But if you can use it on yourself, you can actually sit down and write down 5 things you've been procrastinating about, and then think about all of the things that you can do to get yourself to associate pleasure to taking those actions. So basically what you do is you write down, say, 5 ways not doing those things has stopped you from being able to achieve things and stopped you from having pleasure in your life. Like, for instance, if you're unhealthy and you're unfit and you eat rubbish, then you might write down, say, 50 ways even of how being unfit and unhealthy has negatively affected your life. And you could even fast forward 5 years into the future and really dwell on all of the pain you'd feel if you continued in your current state with your current diet. And you could use this for anything, but then you also would focus on all of the pleasure that you'll get to feel. So all of the pleasure that you can think of that you'll feel if you do take action in this area. And you might think of, say, another 50 things. You can think of as many things as you can to motivate yourself to attach a huge amount of pain to not taking action and a huge amount of pleasure to taking action. And this works for absolutely anything. This works for any fear that you may have. And if there's anything you've been putting off, whether it's like growing a business or going to university or getting into a relationship or getting out of a relationship or moving to another country, whatever it is, if you've been wanting to do it and you haven't actually done it, it's because you associate more pain to doing it than to not doing it. And by consciously paying attention to what your pain and pleasure associations are linked up to, and by rewiring them, because that's what you're doing. If you actually sit down and you write down all of the negative things that are happening because you haven't done it, and all the positive things that will happen if you do it, if you actually write these things down, you'll reprogram yourself subconsciously, and then your conscious and your subconscious mind will be in alignment. And then you'll actually be able to move towards where you want to move towards. Like, if this is kind of complicated, think of it as being like, if you're trying not to drive into a wall, say, like, let's say somebody's driving and they're trying not to drive into the wall. If they focus on not driving into the wall, by looking at the wall, they'll go into the wall. And you could think of where you look, where your attention is focused, as what your subconscious is linked up as. So if your subconscious is linked up negatively, like, i.e. negatively being, the opposite of what you need it to be in order for you to move towards what you want to move towards, then you need to line it up with what you want consciously. Now, let's say you want to lose weight. In order for you to make those two things link up, you have to see what's going on subconsciously and consciously access that by writing down all of the pleasure that you've been getting by not taking action, all the pleasure you'll get when you take action, and all of the pain you'll get if you continue with the current pattern, which has come from the old conditioning. And it sounds very complicated, but it's actually very, very simple. If you actually do it, and you actually take some time and you do this, it will really transform your life, because you'll stop procrastinating and you'll start moving in the direction that you really want to go in.